Hey, it's me. I'm on my own. I have been abandoned this week, so I hope that I'm going to see lots of friendly faces in the comments joining me because James Taylor, he's in Italy, right? He's having a bit of a skive, 2 weeks holiday, right? And we'll find out why he's tired and needs 2 weeks shortly. But I have a guest this week. So it's me and my guest. It's going to be nice and intimate. And I know my guest very well, but you may not know him. And we're going to be talking about the speaking industry, what's happening now and what's next. So let me tell you who he is. And I've got an introduction I'm going to read. Our guest today is known as the closer because he is one of the best in the business when it comes to closing big deals. Bob Strange has more than 30 years' experience working in the speaking and events industry. He's worked for top 3 speaker bureaus, Kruger Cowne, Performing Artistes, and then with me at the MFL team and London Speaker Bureau. When we launched Speaking Business Academy full-time, Bob set up his own agency, a hybrid, a mix of talent management, agency, and speaker bureau. Today, he's going to share with us his new business model, how he's working with speakers, what he's seeing in the industry, and we'll discuss what the future might be for speakers and events. So please welcome Bob Strange. Bob, how are you?
Good afternoon, Maria. Thank you so much for the invitation and the big build-up. I put my cufflinks on for this.
Fantastic. I have to put my teeth back in. I stumbled over so many words then. It's terrible. I'm used to James, you see, when we do this live. I'm used to James doing his professional MC reading of the introduction, and he's left me to it on my own. And he's having a rest because he's been a bit busy, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Yeah, kept his diary quite full recently across the summer. Yeah, it's good. He's earned some time off, Maria. He certainly has.
Fantastic. And we'll find out.
But not for long.
Okay, good. We'll find out a bit more about how you've done that. But before we do, let's go back, because I said that you've been in the industry for 30 years. And a few of those years, thank you very much, were with me and my team. We're very grateful for that. Tell us about your journey in the speaking industry, where it started, and some of your experiences.
Yeah. It's funny to be thought of as a veteran industry professional. Yeah, it's really funny. I initially started off in a music / production background. I tour managed for several years and ran some venues and ran some festivals, which got me into the event industry. I moved into the speaking industry late 90s, and I've been in it ever since. I got in right at the beginning of when agencies noticed the attractiveness of the internet for selling speakers. It was marvelous. At the beginning, it was like a license to print money. Bought a boat on the back of Jeff Birch bookings. It was fabulous. I used to run my own small consultancy in the far northwest of Scotland. Did it from the back of my boat with solar panels when it was sunny and battery power when it was raining. Mainly raining, I have to say.
I imagine.
Mainly raining. Came down after the banking crisis killed my main clients, which were banks, which was great. Good business model, worked for a while, and then took a complete nosedive. Came down to London, started with Kruger Cowne. Had some interesting years with them, working with some of their celebrity talent, top-end media, film, music talent. Worked with Geldof. Had a very interesting day with Jamie Oliver at the O2. I did some really fun things in that kind of media high-end framework. And I moved from there to working with performing artists, I suppose, which you would say was initially a more traditional speaking bureau, entertainment bureau, predominantly to start with, I would say, very much in the awards and events field. Awards after dinners, working with a lot more comics, people like Jason Manford. Did a fantastic day at the Royal Albert Hall with Billy Ocean, which was quite spectacular. Then I moved on from there I joined the team at MFL. I had the delight to work for you. I mean, we've known we've known you and I have known each other for many, many, many years, but this was the first time that we had an opportunity to work together. I joined part of the team, part of the bigger network at LSB. I think probably with more of a international focus in terms of clientele, not targeted so much on the UK market, certainly moving much more into the European market. We did some lovely stuff with Karim Rashid on a dockside in Sardinia, where the pretty people go. It was lovely. I got the opportunity to go, spoiling that pretty people image, but there we go. There was Big Bob with his shorts on in Sardinia, which was fun. I've had closer to home, we put Steve Wozniak on a cruise boat down the Thames, which was interesting. And in a storm, one night we had Holly Willoughby launching a cruise ship in Southampton for MCI cruise ships. It was varied, Maria. It was good fun.
It was.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had great fun, and I'm glad you didn't have a moment to get bored. I'm going to change your name from the closer to the name dropper. I thought I was a name dropper, but my goodness, can you drop names for England? That's amazing. Or for Scotland, should I say? That was just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Name dropping. Okay, so obviously that's been a fantastic experience. It's wonderful, and we can't underestimate how many bookings you get done in 30 years, because obviously I've been in the industry a while, and I know how busy it is. But you're working with speakers differently now. How are you currently working with speakers?
Yeah, I've taken a kind of two-pronged approach to where I position myself in the industry now. One side of my proposition that I offer is I have a kind more of your traditional speakers bureau, but quite bespoke, very, very limited number of speakers on my roster. I like to work with names that I trust, names that I've worked with. Some of the people that are on this that I have on my roster are names that I worked with when I started in the business. People like Jeff Birch, the legend that he is. I've known him, as I said. I bought a boat on the back of Jeff Birch bookings. Yeah, so that's one approach, which is handling incoming inquiries, client briefs from clients, the more traditional bureau with an emphasis on sort of a focus on future technology, communications, with a usual smattering. I'm glad I've got my teeth in of motivational business, etc. names, just to give, just to be available for the clients. That's one side of the business. Then we move into what I call why I call myself the closer. One service that I provide for a very few number of speakers is that I take over their incoming inquiries that they generate. I'll scope them. I will see that the budget's there, and I will get them over the line. So I scope, negotiate, and close deals for us. In particular, for the most notable one that I work for is your very own James Taylor. James is my main client, and I am the person that keeps him hopefully as busy as he is. Starting to see some live things coming in for James in October and onwards as the business starts to open up. So that's one thing I do for a small handful of speakers. I provide a kind of, I don't know if you would call it a management role, but it's certainly a role that speakers seem to need. And then I'm offering, I've come up with a new service that I'm trying to provide again to a small handful of speakers, which is I want to offer my 25 years worth of experience in the business and make it available to, again, a limited group of people. My aim is to build speakers' profiles, increase their fees, and get them bookings. I intend to do that as I'm going to outreach to their databases. I'm going to revisit their past clients, heat up cold connections. I'm going to share like a maniac on LinkedIn as if people follow me know that is what I do. Basically come up with a strategy to build their presence and get bookings. And I'm going to offer that for an agreed fee set against commissions for a certain period devoted across a month to be agreed upon. Each case taken differently depending on the requirements of what the speaker needs. So that is where I'm at, Maria, and what I'm trying to offer to the market. I think it's a little bit different. I suppose you would call it a concierge service. It's quite boutique. Each speaker will be handled differently depending on what they need. I hope it fills a gap in the market. I'm giving almost a management role for however long is required. So.
Super. It does absolutely fill a gap in the market, because we work with, as you know, we're now working with speakers and we're helping them with their positioning and getting all their assets right. And then when they get to that point, they need to go out and, be visible, get their bookings. And it's very useful to be able to say, actually, if you haven't got time to do it or you don't want to do it, you've got Bob who's got all this experience. So you've got three prongs then. You've got a very much boutique, I would say a small speaker bureau, because most speaker bureaus have thousands of speakers. You've been very select. You've got what is it, half a dozen or a dozen?
No, I'm beyond half a dozen. I have probably 50, 60 names. That's
it's still modest. It's still very modest number for a bureau. So that's fine. That's great. So that's your model there. Then you have your second service, which is your closing service, where a speaker will share their incoming inquiries and you negotiate and close. Absolutely. Which is much easier for a third party to get a better deal than it is for yourself. And then I love this new model of the outreach. And I've seen you on LinkedIn. You're very active. We're both active. We're both fans of LinkedIn. So brilliant. So that is keeping you busy, I can imagine. So
it is, Maria.
What have you seen? I mean, we both have seen the business and the industry change dramatically in the last 18 months, 2 years. What have you seen in particular? How working has changed in the speaking industry?
Well, I do remember the chaos that ensued at that rather tragic period at the beginning of 2020, when the business went into meltdown. We just spent all our time fruitlessly rescheduling for events that were destined to be cancelled, or if we were lucky, transferred in some way or other into the virtual format. We saw, I think at the beginning of the period, we saw a panic from the speaking industry and the speakers themselves in general, because they thought, what's happening? Where's the business gone? Quite a few players left the game. Some speakers realized that they couldn't adapt and just went into hibernation and then living on a desert island off Australia somewhere. I know many speakers who decided, well, I'll just wait and come back when my services are appropriate, when I can be back in a live thing. So that's from the speaker side of it. I know at that time, there was a panic selling of services. You could get a $10,000 speaker for a penny halfpenny at the beginning, because people were taking anything and panicking. And I think there was a desperate need to get work. Thankfully, that's changed, because that obviously had an impact on fees. From the client side, what has certainly happened is that run-in times for jobs have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. Back in the good old days, you would possibly get 3 months, 6 weeks, certainly, to have a go.
Sometimes a year.
Sometimes a year you would plan.
Absolutely. Would plan as soon as they finished one event, they would start planning the next.
Start for the next one. Yeah. And you could take your time. You could work on it slowly. I did a booking yesterday for a job in 13 days and counting, and that is actually a reasonable run-in at this point in time. So that is a big change, and it has obviously puts more pressure on your ability to respond and be able to get deals done quickly and provide the right speaker and the right service that's appropriate for the client. Yeah, so it's changed in that respect. I mean, there's lots of other bits about it we could discuss. You know, you could discuss the fact that the product that was getting generated at the beginning of the pandemic is a very different product from the products that is getting put out now. You know, I think speakers have realised, certainly in the virtual world, that you have to look at your production values. Enormous, you know, production values are absolutely enormous. You can't do a Zoom call like that advert with the cat walking across in front of you and you go silent. You can't do that. It's got to be slick. It's got to look. That's what clients expect. Production,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was waffling there, and I probably moved into different areas.
No.
You know,
don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's all good stuff.
Bring me back.
I'm coming back to a couple of things because I think I'd like to talk a bit more. So this lead time issue here, which is so true, where the lead time, you called it something else, runtime, is so much shorter, has a huge effect not only on the organizer who has to do things much more quickly, on the third party like yourself if you're trying to then, you know, match the speakers, etc.
Yeah.
But the speakers themselves have got to be set up, have got to have some kind of system to respond. So if they're busy talking at an event online and it's a half day or whatever, they can't wait till the end of that event necessarily to respond and say, yes, I'm available. They have to have some kind of backup system, or they might lose, because you've had one this morning, haven't you? 11:30, you get the brief, you have to give all the details, all the answers by the end of today. That means reaching out to people, checking their fees, checking availabilities.
Absolutely.
That's a tight time, and you're out for a while because you're here with me. That's tough.
Yes, my valuable time it's being spent with you, Maria.
That's fine.
I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Thank you. So I think that's important, that speakers realize they need to be super fast, super responsive, even more so than in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And have everything in a format that a client can make a decision, have everything the client would need, everything that you would need to put forward to a client. What are you seeing with fees now? So you said that the fees collapsed. They did. I think it was, in fact, people were giving stuff away for free. There were free webinars every minute of the day. Yeah. It was just awful. I'm seeing good things now with fees. I'm seeing them coming back. Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. The virtual world is still here for some time, and I don't doubt that. I am seeing some green shoots of in-person things starting to come back, probably from the end of October into November, and certainly for 2022, there is live stuff going to happen. If you look at the number of conference venues that are fully booked and you can't get a space in at the beginning of 2022. So live fees, I assume, will go back to where they were. Live fees will go back, possibly higher, because there's a premium that for turning up in person now. You know, you can do 2 things in a day, 3 things in a day you can do online. I think James is the maximum. He's done 4.
Jamil did 7.
Well, Jamil's just a rock star.
I mean, he's just, oh my God, he's superhuman.
Yeah. So,
I don't think he could do that every day, though.
I think you have to. There definitely will be more of a premium on live in-person stuff. I'm glad to see that virtual fees have come much closer to where, let's say, a local rate in-person fee would be for a speaker. I think that's becoming more of the general case. So if a speaker costs 10,000 in the UK, a virtual fee should be pretty much close to that. Now, a client doesn't have to travel, doesn't have the expense, the hotel accommodation. It's actually harder to do a virtual thing well than just rocking up, getting off the plane, getting in a taxi and going to the job. So I think, and the content is just the same, Maria. The content is just the same. So, and if the production value is there, they're adding value, because that is something in the virtual world that can be used and repeated and and kept going and used almost infinitely, depending on how you contract it.
Absolutely.
You know,
And bigger audiences, of course.
and bigger audiences. You
Much
can
bigger
much
audiences.
bigger audiences. So
Yeah.
that's where fees are, and I
Yeah.
think they're going. Yeah.
Fantastic. So with all this experience, what tips would you give anybody who's listening in or watching who is starting out as a paid speaker to get more business? What would you advise?
If they want to take the bureau approach, which I have to 100% recommend because I am one, I can't see how you could really do it on your own anyway, no matter how good your assets were in terms of personal websites, etc. That's a difficult approach. You do need the extra fingers and the extra hands that a bureau gives you to get out there. You have to make sure that you're ready for bureaus, that you're not rocking up to a bureau with a handwritten biography and a back of a fag packet approach to it. A bureau needs to see professional assets, be that websites, be that biographies, photographs, showreels, etc. Maria, I would have to say that the first thing that I would say to a new speaker coming into the industry that approaches me, I would say, go and speak to Maria Franzoni, because she offers exactly what you need. Maria, you're the obvious source.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to have to pay you for this now.
You will be, don't you worry, you will be.
So it's interesting because, speakers coming into the speaking industry obviously want to go and work with bureaus, but more often than not, new speakers have to prove themselves first before the bureaus are interested. And part of that is having all of the assets.
Yeah.
But also they have to have some experience, because bureaus, it's very hard for a bureau to take on somebody new when you've got people like you've got your 60 people there that and they're great and you trust them, they're safe in their hands. Yeah. And I know you've taken on some of the speakers that have come on our programs because you trust my judgment.
Absolutely.
And also you've then seen their assets after they've done the program. I think one thing that's really important for a speaker starting out is to be totally clear on the value that they bring to the client.
Absolutely.
The outcome that they're going to bring. And one of the mistakes speakers make is that they don't really look at what's going on at the moment in business, in the economy, in the world. What's going on and what can I contribute that will be of value to audiences? They often start with their expertise, which might not be relevant. So I think looking at and keeping up with what's going on is really important too. So those would be my bits of advice. And we've got someone from Singapore watching. Hello to Singapore. Sadly, I haven't got a name, just LinkedIn user, but nice to see you tuning in from there. It must be it's quite late there now, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, well, that's nice anyway.
The international reach of the speaking
international
industry.
Reach, yeah. But you're totally right that you have to have all of the assets, and that video piece is so important, whether it's a show reel or a good video snippet. More and more important these days when people are working virtually, so that you haven't necessarily got to have a video that's a view on stage. It could be a video view on.
Yeah, and let's face it, Maria, there are so many speakers out there. So many speakers covering the same topics in the same areas, in the same fields. You've got to stand out. Your stuff has to be good.
And actually, speaking of James Taylor, who you worked with, the reason he's been so successful is that he's taken a topic that has got a lot of competition, but he took a new perspective on it. He talked and he presented it differently. And as you said, very high quality, very high level.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, the production values from James are exceptional. I mean, I'm going to say that, obviously, because he's my client, but he did a thing for a client where you would have thought he was inside an aircraft.
I saw that.
Did you see that? Wasn't that fantastic?
I saw a clip. Yeah.
You would have thought you were in the plane. It was
amazing.
The things that they can do if you have the equipment, if you're set up for it, it's absolutely fantastic. And those production values are what clients expect to see now. That's exactly what they expect to see.
Well, yes, at his level of fee, they should, because he's got a high fee.
Absolutely.
Well, let's stop talking about him because he's going
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
very embarrassed. Yeah, so it's Tanvi from Singapore and it's 9 p.m. Thank you very much for letting us know. So, what tips can you give speakers then to increase their bookings? Are there any tips that you have to share?
Work with a bureau like myself. Obviously, I'm going to say that. You have to keep fresh. Your topics, as you say, have to be bang on the button. They have to be absolutely relevant. So that's going to always. You mentioned being contactable. That is vital. It's absolutely vital. Being able to, at the drop of a hat, take a discovery call, a non-committal discovery call with a client. Be flexible with a client. That is what that's what clients expect. I'm sure it's copyrighted because he copyrights everything, does Mr. Taylor. But to steal something from his dictionary, tailor exactly for the client. Make sure that what you do is what the client wants at the end of the day. That will ultimately always get you more bookings because you'll get better feedback from clients. You can share that feedback and you will generate more bookings by doing a more professional job in every respect of what you do, be it your market materials, your website, the job on the day, or your way that you function with a bureau, your availability, and your flexibility to work with a client.
Fabulous.
I waffled a little bit there. I was a lot
No,
of
it's
things.
okay. I've written some notes because again, you covered a lot of ground there. So you talk about a discovery call, which we used to in the bureau call a pre-booking call. And this is where you're getting a speaker to speak to a client before they've made the decision. And you don't do that with every speaker that they might be
No,
considering. It has to be just one or maybe two maximum, and they need to know however many other people are there. It's important. And I think more and more clients are asking for that now. And I think it's an important aspect of helping the client to make a decision, to have that confidence that you understand their business and that you are relatable. Because especially when you're working through a third party, and it's like when I was working in the bureau, and for you now, Bob, you're saying this is the right person, but sometimes they just need that reassurance that you've relayed
yeah,
the information.
that's right. The face-to-face in this respect, that it makes all the difference. I mean, before a discovery call, there is a certain amount of scoping that needs to be done, certain amount of filtering, because you need to, from my point of view, you need to make sure that the client actually has the budget and you're not wasting anybody's time. That's very important. You've got to do as much scoping in advance so that the speaker's not just turning up on the call not able to have done any research. That the speaker should, if they can, do a little bit of research in advance of the call and know who the client is, company values or whatever. Yeah, but the discovery call, a non-committal discovery call, is absolutely vital to moving forward. It gives you that, yeah, as you say, the client feels that they then know the speaker in advance of it.
Yeah, perfect. And you also talked about flexibility, and it's interesting because there are many speakers I remember pre-pandemic that we worked with that were not particularly flexible. And I'm not going to name names, but I remember certain speakers who would only do a briefing call on the afternoon once a month on a Thursday.
Yes.
And if you then got certain number of speakers who need briefing calls with them, you can't do it, and they're not available. You've then got to wait till. That's not really helpful. Or speakers who would not be flexible in fact that can you start half an hour earlier and finish half an hour earlier, or
yes,
could you perhaps send us a different photo, or do you know what I mean? It's what are you talking about in terms of flexibility? Is it flexibility of the same sort of thing, or content, or everything?
I think I was referring to content. I think I was referring to content more, and making sure that you work to the brief that the client has. You know what their objectives are, what they want at the end of the day. That's basic scoping, isn't it? What do they want their audience to feel at the end of the day, so that you make sure you deliver that message. And that requires flexibility. You can't, just because you've got speech topic number 45, you don't stick to speak topic number 45. You have to be able to adapt, and a speech should be tailored specifically to the client. I'll probably have to give them a $5 for that now.
Well, because it's tailored a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. And so when it comes to closing deals for your speakers, is that the best way that speakers can help you, by doing that? You call it discovery call. We called it pre-booking call, by being flexible. Is that the main thing that they can do for you? Or is there anything else?
Yes, I think that's it. I mean, a nice trick. It's a nice added extra that James will sometimes do, is record a very short minute message after a call, or even before a call's happened, just to say hello, thanks for your interest. That develops that personal relationship. Be prepared to do, after you've discussed what the topic is, do a short 2 minutes, 3 minutes video that says, this is how I'm going to approach it. All that sort of stuff helps great.
That is great. I mean, my goodness, if speakers did that for us when we were doing this before, my goodness, how easy it would be. And it's such an easy thing to do, piece to camera very quickly. Just had some thoughts. Lovely. Love that.
Just do it on your mobile. Off you go. It's done. TikTok even.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. Although we're talking about high production value, so you might be careful.
Yes,
get your lighting.
If you can do it with high production value.
Yeah, be better.
More the better. Yeah.
Okay. So we've called this session What's Next. So we do need to talk about what's next. And we've been talking a lot about what's happening now, what's happening in the past. What are your predictions for the speaking industry of the future, for speakers and bookers and bureaus? Do you have your crystal ball out?
My crystal ball. Keep it clean, Maria. Keep it clean. Yeah,
you went there.
I did go there. You knew I was going to go there. I would say I'd like to think in, let's say, 3 years' time, fingers crossed, that pre-pandemic normality has kind of resumed, that we are all free to travel. Normality has resumed. But I would say in the year to 2 year run up to that, it's still, to an extent, up in the air. There is more confidence, I think, starting to show. So there will be more live events. I think those events will continue to be and become more hybrid. There'll be more of a reliance on technology. I am for the day when hologram technology isn't as prohibitive as it currently is, because it's really, really, really dear, but it looks brilliant. It can be fantastic. I think there'll be more of a hybrid mix of speakers, because why would you necessarily fly in a superstar from the other side of the world with the added and additional expense when you can put them on a screen with production values and deliver the same message and it looks brilliant, or have them as a hologram, deliver the same message and it looks brilliant? That will happen. There will still be live speakers. They may be more territory focused live speakers, but I think there definitely will be live speakers, but with the addition of flying people in via the intranet into the room. I also think there'll be a hybrid approach to audiences. There will be people in the audience in a venue mixing, hopefully without masks, all having a lovely time. And there will also be the virtual online coming in audience out there on internet. That's how I see events going. There will be an increasing reliance on technology and a hybrid approach to it.
Excellent. I agree with all of that, and I think we're seeing a lot of this already.
Happening already.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any views of what they're seeing in the future, that'd be interesting. Here's a couple of things I think as well. I think that we'll see many more speakers having several offerings instead of just having the keynote, because they've had to do that. They've had to adapt. So now suddenly they have the keynote, and they're also they're taking the keynote and turning them into masterclasses.
You open the door with the keynote, Maria, as we know. You open the door, you get your foot through the door, And then you've got the opportunity after the keynote to build onto a workshop,
Yeah.
build onto boardroom advisories, onto executive coaching, get your foot in the door with a keynote. Anything's possible.
Yeah, deliver great value and do that.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing more of that, whereas in the past there were just keynote speakers who would just keynote.
Absolutely,
but I think more
yeah.
of them are coming round to learning how to take it into a program. I think we'll see more people also having digital versions of their content.
Yes.
So sort of a more as I said, portfolio of services. And also I think we'll see speakers who will be potentially, as they grow their business, actually having other people deliver some of their content. And
it's happening.
I know.
It's happening. James has, we've done some stuff where it required now, correct me if I'm wrong, was it a Spanish speaker or a French speaker or Mandarin? We've had other speakers present James's material. I've been in a negotiation with a client who will potentially dub James, and certainly looking at subtitling and all that sort of
brilliant
use in technology. So yeah.
Yeah, and that goes back to the point you were making about having speakers who are more local, so that in doing that, you can have somebody who's local, you're not worrying about the travel issues, presenting material that you want to have delivered. And so speakers will be licensing their content. I think that's fascinating. And then the other area I think is changing and will change, and it is because of this 18 months. People have been able to connect with each other much more easily.
Yeah.
People who in the past would not normally respond have been at home and I've invited people onto my podcast and here onto Speaking Business TV who in the past would never have been available, or I would have never got to. I wouldn't have got to them. And that's happening now. Clients and speakers and clients, speakers and bureaus. And I think the relationships between the two can build on that, and there's huge potential for having stronger relationships. We've come from a background where the bureau had thousands of speakers, but in reality the strong relationships were only with a handful of those speakers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be bigger, and the partnership and relationship I think will be stronger. And the bureaus that are thinking that way, how do I support the speaker? And the speaker thinking, how do I work with the bureau? And they're thinking about a partnership rather than, you get me bookings, you get me business, or the other way around, you close. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's more, we're going to see much more of that. And that's exciting. That's exciting because that collaboration will lead to all sorts of innovations and creativity and new ideas and new ways of delivering great value to clients. I'm sure of it.
It is. It's an exciting world in the events industry. The events industry is not dead, Maria. We're alive and kicking.
Yeah, we just had a little bit of a
1990s Scottish rock reference there. James would have got that one.
I didn't get that one. I'm sorry. Is it live and kicking? Yeah, there was a show, wasn't? I don't know. Hey, listen, don't do the rock references. So, Bob, if a speaker wants to work with you with either of your 3 services, how can they do that? Where do they connect?
The simplest point of contact for clients and speakers is www.thecloser, all one word, .online.
I'm smiling because you're still saying www.
I like saying it, Maria. I like saying it.
I know you do. Okay, you've also, because James and I love tools and tips and all those kind of things, you've got a tool to share with us, one that I didn't know about. Tell us about your tool, was it Auto Text Expander?
Auto Text Expander is I can't show you it at the moment, but Auto Text Expander is a Chrome extension that is easy to find in the App Store. And it works particularly well with LinkedIn. It allows you, let's say you're doing a reach out, you're targeting one particular company, or you want to connect with people who have looked at recommended speakers, for example, and you want to target them. It allows you to very quickly generate a standardized message. Dear such and such, saw that you were interested in such and such, or you followed such and such. Can I interest you in such and such? and you generate your text, and then all you have to do is drop in a couple of initials and drop that into so you open up you send your invite and you put your note in when you're making your connection on LinkedIn, and you just put in JT for James Taylor Introduction or whatever, and it's there. It saves you, let's say tens of minutes at a time. Anyway, it saves time. Does save time.
Yeah,
that's one that I use quite a lot.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you for that. And I'm going to share something, seeing as we've been talking about speaker bureaus so much. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about how to get listed with a speaker bureau, and it also gives you advice if you're wanting to get listed with Bob's Speaker Bureau, do follow the advice because it will be the same. Go to speakingbusinessacademy.com, and on the homepage, there are several downloads. If you scroll down, several guides, and one of those guides is how to get listed with a speaker bureau. So that's speakingbusinessacademy.com. So Bob, thank you so much. That was fun.
It's been a pleasure, Maria. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for inviting me. I am sure we will be speaking soon.
Very soon. All right, Bob. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Take care, everyone.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.